يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مساكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له
الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to glorify you and enlighten you in your dunya and in the akhirah and aid us and you towards understanding of the Quran. We are today in the second portion and the second lesson, going through the second juz of the Quran, summarizing the main topics and the main benefits that we can gain from the Quran. And the second juz has a lot of topics and a lot of stories to be mentioned. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those who benefit. And as we mentioned before, these are summary points that we can benefit from the Quran by looking through every juz and taking the main aspect to give us a general picture, to give us a whole idea of what is that juz speaking about. So it can assist us through contemplating and making tadabbur over the Quran and understanding the Quran in a general format. But then a person needs to go through the tafsir of the Quran and understand the Quran ayah by ayah and contemplate upon the Quran ayah by ayah. That is more beneficial. So we say from the benefits and the summaries that we can and the topics that we can have in our reminder of thamaratun min kulli juz, reminders and fruits from every juz in the Quran, is that this second juz of the Quran starts with talking about the whole juz speaks about three main topics. First is about the topic of ta'atullah, obedience towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second, it is about how this ummah is mumayyaza, the tamyiz of this ummah, how this ummah is distinguished and unique. And then the third, it speaks about the topic of taqwa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and being conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these three things, they are in the whole juz of this number 2, the second juz of the Quran. In general, you will find these aspects throughout the whole juz. The second juz, continuing with Surah Al-Baqarah, we mentioned that in the first Surah Al-Baqarah, in the first juz and the first part of Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about Adam alayhi salam and how he made him have istikhlaf fil ard, how he made him control, or rather come on earth and be controlling in regards to this earth and live in it. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided him by showing him a methodology, and this methodology applies to us as well. And therefore it connects, this manhaj is clarified, and this methodology is clarified to us in detail in regards to our rulings and how could we live on earth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us our commands of what we are allowed to do and what we are not allowed to do, things that are halal, things that are prohibited, all of this, and our laws and our things, all of this is in second juz. So he mentioned it briefly in the first juz, and it contains and it goes in deeper detail in the second juz. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the first juz of Surah Al-Baqarah, we mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us three main stories to benefit from. The story of Adam, the story of Bani Israel, the children of Yaqub and their descendants, and the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. It taught us as well how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a test as well, and how the people's way of accepting Allah's test, and were they obedient towards Allah's test or not. In the story of Adam alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested Adam, and he ate from the tree when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him not to. Then he made tawbah and repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah repented upon him. And then the children of Israel, when it came to the Bani Israel, when it came to the story of the cow, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded them to sacrifice a cow, but at first they were hesitant and denying and asking too many questions for no reason, and then after that they sacrificed it at the end. And this is a lesson for the ummah to accept the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the first time, from the get-go, without any misguidance. And then the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنْ. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested Ibrahim with various tests, and he completed these tests successfully. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, tested Ibrahim with the matter of leaving his wife and his son alone in the desert, and the matter of sacrificing his son Ismail as well, and the matter of having children at a later age as well of his life as a test for him. And all of these tests, Ibrahim alayhi salam passed them, and he obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in them. Then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to us in this story and clarifies to us how the Jewish people, when it came to the point of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changing the qibla and changing the direction of the prayer, how the people of the Jews denied this and started putting doubts and started arguing and so on of changing from the qibla from the Baytul Maqdis in Masjid al-Aqsa until the Kaaba again, the Kaaba al-Musharrafa again. Because at the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the Kaaba was the direction of ibadah, and then it was made into al-Masjid al-Aqsa, and then after that it was made into the Kaaba again. And this was a test for the ummah to make them unique, that they have their own qibla, because the Jewish people had their own qibla, which was the qibla of Masjid al-Aqsa, and then which is the Baytul Maqdis, and then now the Muslims have their own qibla, which is Baytullah, the house of Allah, the Kaaba. So it made them unique, it made them an ummah that unique. And also in this lesson it teaches that the ummah was having ta'ah towards Allah. They obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is one of the main topics. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the uniqueness of this ummah when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. And we have made you an ummah that is wasat, ay adl, ay khiyar, ummah that is good, beneficial, ummah that is immediate in everything, not extreme in any way or another. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about in all of these matters and in all of these topics about tazkiyatun nafs, clarifying the heart, clarifying the soul, purifying it, turning it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us as a main foundation in this ummah that ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر. Bir and righteousness and ibadah is not direction of places, it's not direction of prayer, it's not by going this or there, but rather it is iman, to believe in Allah, to believe in the books, to believe in the angel, to believe in the last day, to believe in the prophets, to believe in the qadr, the good of it and the bad of it, and to be charitable and to do good and to give salah and to establish zakah and to keep up to the promises and to be patient in the matters of ba'sa and darra. When you be afflicted with calamity, poverty, when you're afflicted with illness and diseases, then you need to be patient, dear Muslim. All of this is mentioned in the ayah 177. لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ. Naam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clarifies to us that purification of the soul is the main thing. Naam. And then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to us and tells us to remember the virtue of fasting. So he speaks about the fourth pillar of Islam, and this is the only place in the whole Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the matters of Islam. نعم كتب يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون, so that you may attain piety. From ayah 183 of Surah Al-Baqarah onwards, a portion speaks about speaks about the fourth pillar of Islam, which is fasting. So it is a must on the Muslim to assist himself by benefiting and learning and going through in detail and understanding the ahkam al-fiqhiyya, the matters that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fiqhi rulings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about in these ayat, and the halal and the haram that Allah spoke about in these ayat of fasting, which is important, which is where the only place in Surah Al-Baqarah here you will find in the whole Quran speaking about fasting. Then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala moved on to speak about the fifth compulsory thing for us, which is the fifth pillar of Islam, which is the matter of Hajj. The matter of Hajj to the Bayt of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and making pilgrimage to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we find that from what's beautiful, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when spoke about in Surah Al-Baqarah, second juz, about the matters of Hajj here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala focused more on the actionable manasik and the actions of Hajj. But the imaniyat and the matters of the ahkam al-imaniyya and al-ahkam al-qalbiyya, the rulings in regards to the heart and the iman and the portions of the spiritual aspect of Hajj, he spoke about it later on in Surah Al-Hajj. But in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah spoke about the matters that is halal and haram, and what you can do and what are the actions and the sha'air of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna safa wal marwata min sha'airillah, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that safa and marwa as well from the symbols of Allah in Hajj. فَمَنْ حَجَّ وَاعْتَمَرَ, whoever does Hajj or Umrah, فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِ أَن يَطَّوَفَ بِهِمَا, there is no problem for him to make tawaf. Why? The reason they said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that it's okay to do tawaf here, because before the people used to have, in the time of Jahiliyyah, they used to put two statues, one on Safa, one on Marwa, one called Asaf and one called, in some narration, Asaf, and one called Na'ila. And these two statues, they used to go up and down. For them, they used to do sa'i, up and down between Safa and Marwa. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to them, yes, this action in itself is misguidance by the people from the time of Jahiliyyah, but Safa and Marwa in itself is correct because it's part of Hajj and Umrah. So do not be scared. So this shows medium in the Ummah, that do not be extreme. We do not do everything that the Christians or that the people of disbelief do. It means that not everything that they do is misguidance, but rather some things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides us towards. If He tells us that this is misguidance from them, then we don't do it because it's misguidance. And if He tells us this is guidance, then this is guidance as well. And not everything that the non-Muslims do, it is wrong. Rather, a person can benefit in regards to the matters of the dunya and what the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ has clarified. Then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about ahkam al-usra, the rulings in regards to the matters of usra. And al-ahkam al-fiqhiyya or fiqh al-usra speaks about the family and the upbringing of the family. Allah speaks in this in detail, speaks about nikah, contract marriages, speaks about talaq, divorces, speaks about rida'a, breastfeeding. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also speaks about khitbah, contracts, marriages, and so on. And it speaks, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about al-idad or al-iddah or iddatul mar'ah, the waiting period after divorce or after divorce. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about all of this in regards to the rights of families and infaq, spending for the family as well. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala links all of these subjects in regards to the matters with the matter of muraqabatullah, to be conscious and fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all of these matters. Why? Because lots of dhulm happen in this matter. A person divorces his wife, he forgets his wife and his family and his children. He doesn't give her her right, he doesn't give her her rizq, he doesn't give her her money, her nafaqah and anything. So a lot of misguidances, they disagree, so they break up, they cause problems for each other, and so on. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying every time when it comes to this, fear Allah, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ. Na'am. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeats this in all of these ayat in regards to ahkam, that you have to be careful. And when it comes to talaq and divorce, break up with mutual respect amongst each other and do not cause problems. And also the husband should give wealth to the wife as well, because this is her right, and should not be oppressive towards her as well. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the ahkam of al-usra and links it with man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawm al-akhir, whoever believes in Allah and the last day. Why? Because whoever has the iman in the last day, the day of judgment, he will remember that he will be accounted for these things, so he fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is very important that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us this. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about tashri'u al-ta'abbud, matters of ibadah like siyam and salah and zakah and so on, and hajj, so matters of ibadah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at-tashri'u al-jina'i speaks about the matters of criminal law and al-qisas, and taking rights back over, and who deserves to be killed and so on. All of this is according to the Islamic Sharia. So all of this is living on earth, the way to live on earth. As we mentioned, he said that to Adam alayhi salam, and he made him have the opportunity to live the earth, so he gave him a methodology to live in. Then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the final aspects of Juzz number 2 speaks about the story of Jalut and Talut, David and Goliath, you may say in English. And there is lots of benefit. The main of them is that victory comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not by number, and it's by patience as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran in this about this ayah and about this portion, كم من فئة قليلة غلبت فئة كثيرة بإذن الله والله مع الصابرين. Small number decided to made victory above the bigger number with the permission of Allah and with patience as well. And finally, from the final juz of number 2, the final topics of the juz number 2 is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about that a person shouldn't hasten towards his future, like what the people said to their prophet, قالوا لنبيهم ابعث لنا ملكا نقاتل في سبيل الله. They hastened their future. They said, send us somebody so we can fight with for the sake of Allah. Then when it came to the matter of fighting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to them, are you going to, the prophet said to them, are you going to fight? They said, yes, why should we not fight when people kicked us out of our houses and family? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the result for that, فَلَمَّا كُتِبَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقِتَالِ تَوَلَّوْا إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِنْهُمْ. When fighting and jihad has been prescribed for them, they ran away, because they didn't want to. So do not hasten towards your future, and when the future comes you don't know what to do. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in many places in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that in Surah An-Nisa. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَمَّا كُتِبَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقِتَالِ إِذَا فَرِيقٌ مِّنْهُمْ يَخْشَوْنَ النَّاسَ كَخَشْيَةِ اللَّهِ أَوْ أَشَدَّ خَشْيَةً. That when qital and jihad has been given to them, they fear it, and they run away from it, like how they fear people. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Muhammad as well, فإذا أنزلت سورة محكمة وذكر فيها القتال رأيت الذين في قلوبهم مرض ينظرون إليك نظر المغشي عليه من الموت فأولى لهم طاعة وقول معروف فإذا عزم الأمر فلو صدقوا الله لكان خيرا لهم. That the people, when they hasten towards something and they do not know what to do, and then the command comes to them, they run away from the command. So a person needs to focus on his current, and he does not need to worry about his future. Because as the sayer used to say in Arabic from the statement, فَإِنَّ غَدًا لِنَاظِرِهِ قَلِيبٌ, that the future will have its aspects, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will aid you. So the conclusion is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a methodology. Don't hasten towards what's not, you don't know from the future, from the unseen, and focus about the amal and the action of now, and go by the guidances and the ahkam and the rulings that Allah give, and you will be successful in the dunya. This is from what we can summarize from the second juz and the benefits of the topics in the second juz of the Quran. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to aid us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to assist us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us fiqh in understanding of the Quran, and make us of those who are enlightened and pondering upon the Quran, and make us of those who have action after understanding of the Quran. Allahumma ameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم